Well, welcome YouTube friends and family to today's edition of the Wellness Homesteader. So today I have a whole bunch of updates that I want to give you. I want to talk a little bit about the Pantry Challenge, and then we are going to get busy making some homemade fig Newtons. I think you're really going to enjoy it. So let me start the video off by saying I'm having a bit of a lupus flare. So if you notice my hands are swollen, I'm well aware of it. And for those of you who are new to my channel, I do have systemic lupus, and a variety of things can cause you to have a flare up. Not eating right, not sleeping enough, stress. And sometimes it just happens because it happens. So I've been kind of struggling with that a little bit, but I don't think it's going to inhibit what we're going to do today. So just overlook my hands. All right. So first thing I want to do is my channel shout out and my subscriber shout out. So my channel shout out today is one I've done informally before, but guys, this is one you don't want to miss, and that is Gay over at Apron Strings. Gay is a phenomenal seamstress, but most of her channel is about cooking. She lives in Texas. She does Tex-Mex. She does a lot of just good old-fashioned cooking, cooking for the holidays. If you are new to my channel, you haven't heard me do a shout out, please go over and tell Gay Kim from the Wellness Homesteader sent you. Watch her videos if it's of interest, and I think it will be. Please subscribe, and you are just going to love her. So now let's do our subscriber shout out. So today I want to shout out Diana. So Diana, we've had a lot of lovely conversations back and forth too, and Diana, I think, is also somewhat of a lover of Pyrex. So as promised, can you believe I remembered this? Okay, in truth, I wrote myself a note. This is the blue Pyrex, and this is called the Amish butter print, and it is kind of a little bit turquoise, but it's more blue than turquoise. And this is the color I would like to paint my kitchen. So, and do blue and red. I know that sounds super patriotic, but I'm hoping it comes out mid-century modern versus just patriotic. Not that there's anything wrong with that. So Diana, thank you for all your lovely comments. I hope that cleared up the question about what blue Pyrex looks like versus the blue snowflake. They're a similar color, but this is a little more towards the blue. It is not really teal or turquoise. All right, I also want to give you guys an update on Mom. And I want to say thank you again for all of your lovely messages, your thoughts, your prayers, sharing what you all have been through as well with your own aging parents. It's really a big help. So we've crossed a couple milestones. The in-home assessment has been completed where they come out and kind of determine what level of care Mom needs and is she appropriate for the setting. And thankfully that she passed with flying colors, I guess. It wasn't really pass fail, but she is appropriate. We did go, myself, Mom's caregiver, and Mom, obviously. We went and had a nice facility tour, really looked at all of the common areas, the spaces and activities for the residents there. And while Mom thought it was a really nice place, and has been enthusiastic for about a minute, and then I don't see why I have to go. I don't see why you're making me leave my home. So what I've kind of learned through this, we had a physician appointment as well, and he told her the same thing. I'm just gonna have to do it, guys. So it's Sunday here. You're not going to watch this till Thursday, but we are forecast to get quite a snow today and even more tomorrow. So depending on how bad the roads are, my plan was tomorrow to go to fill out all the paperwork to start the admission process, and the physician's been contacted for like medication orders, diet orders, all of that. And then once I kind of get through that, then I will be scheduling movers because she'll be able to take her own furniture. One of the things I'm running into is mom's just flat out refusing to decide what she wants to take, because if she doesn't make a decision, I think in her mind, the move won't happen. So I told her this morning that what I was going to do is I would just make all the decisions and I would just do it. And then once she got there, not sure what that noise was, if there were additional things that she wanted, needed, we would sort it out at that time, because I think she will just continue to drag her feet. And the apartment is fairly small, so kind of know what will fit and what won't fit. I was more asking about memorabilia she wanted to take and such, and she's just not going to make that decision, so that's okay. All right, pantry challenge. How are you all doing? So yesterday would have been the end of the first week. I will share that I did not do my allotted $20 a week fresh item shopping. I did purchase a can of cream and mushroom soup for my one pot spaghetti and half gallon of milk that I needed for some other things that I was cooking. And that's it. So I think my bill was just under $4, so I did not spend my $20. My meal planning, guys, is very different than probably what most of you do, because I'm only cooking for one. So what I've been doing, and it's actually working out really well, and it is nice to have at least like a high level plan. I went to my freezer, my refrigerator, and my pantry when I made this meal plan for the week coming up. And I said, okay, what is needing to, that's fresh, that is needing to be eaten this week? What do I have in my pantry that I have a gracious plenty of, or an overstock of, or is nearing expiration date? So because I never know on a given day kind of what I'm going to want to eat, I am planning just 2 meals a day. And the reason for that is I eat my big meal midday, and then usually my dinner, last meal of the day, is a repeat of lunch. I don't mind monotony, guys. That's just the way I've done it, and I waste less food that way. So my breakfast choices for the week, I have a lot of Jiffy corn muffin mix. I've done a video on this. I have made sweet corn bread waffles, and they keep in the refrigerator really nice. I'm sure you could freeze them as well and just pop them in the toaster. So I have waffles. I have the Scottish oats that I purchased from Azure Standard, and I have to tell you guys, they are really good, and I prefer them to the steel cut oats. It's a lovely creamy texture, so that's my feedback on that. I also have a lot of ingredients in frozen fruit for protein shakes, so that's my number 3 option. And then finally, I have some yogurt that I also put in my protein shakes, but I like to take the Greek yogurt, put some granola on it, maybe a little bit of fruit or a jam, or even applesauce is good in it. And so those are my 4 choices for breakfast, and I can switch it up depending on what I want to eat what day. And then by next week, if I haven't made a pretty good dent in the yogurt, I may have to change that up. So what is my meal plan for the week? Well, I decided I have some potatoes that need to be eaten, and I personally don't care for potatoes in the microwave as a baked potato. They have a funny, like grainy, mealy texture. So I will be making today meatloaf, and since that has to bake for quite some time, hello Frankie, doing baked potatoes, and then I have some canned carrots that I would like to use up, home canned carrots, homegrown home canned carrots. I will probably eat that meatloaf because I make small meatloafs and baked potatoes for 2 days. So the next meal plan is I have some spinach and some mushrooms and some cheese that needs to be eaten. So I'll be making a spinach, mushroom, and cheese quiche. Thursday, I am going to make some homemade bean soup and cornbread because I have plenty of corn that I can grind for homemade cornbread. And my son for Christmas brought me so many delicious different kinds of meats from a place up there where he lives called Dumas. And so he brought me some bacon ends. And honestly, it's very similar to ham. It's also quite salty. So I have thawed that out because it can be sliced and fried like bacon. And I will be using that for bean soup, and bean soup also freezes well. I have some carrots that also need to be used that are fresh that I will be putting in the bean soup. The next meal, I have canned a ton of chicken broth. So I have the meat from the chicken legs that I am going to put into the soup, and I am going to make homemade chicken noodle and vegetable soup. And then the next meal, so this is going to take me beyond a week, that I'm going to do, I have 5 pounds of ground beef that I would like to can into sloppy joes. And then I have a tube of biscuits that need to be eaten. So I will be making sloppy joe biscuit pies and hopefully having the time to can. It's a little bit up in the air because I don't know what day we'll be doing what as far as moving or what mom needs, but at least I have a plan to work through what I have left in my fresh ingredients, as well as what I have an overstock or an abundance of. So drop me a comment below. How is your meal planning going? Would you like something different around the pantry challenge? The treat that we're going to be making today, I'll talk about in relation to the pantry challenge, but would you like to see more meals? Would you like to see the actual planning process? What can I do to make it easier for you or to give you more information? I know a couple other channels are actually cooking their meals on screen. Since my meals aren't that exciting, I chose not to do that, although I did do the one pot spaghetti, and we will be making something for a treat today. So just drop me a comment below and let me know how you feel about the pantry challenge, how you're doing, and what you would like to see from me. All right, so did that. Okay, so the one challenge I have been having, and I will admit it, is snacks. So I like a good treat, but one of my goals this year is to eat healthier and to eat less processed food. And I want to share a book with you all that really points this out. I'm only maybe 4 hours into the 18-hour book. I'm listening to it on Audible, and it's called The Omnivores Dilemma. So if you want a good understanding of why our food is processed, why we have GMO feed, why our meat is different today, why we may be having some trouble with the new American diet, it is an excellent book. So I don't know what they're going to talk about for 18 whole hours, but right now they're building the foundation of how food has become industrialized and how farming has changed. And I have to tell you, I really believe that a lot of the chemicals, preservatives, additives that are used to grow and preserve our food, it's so highly processed. I think it is leading to a lot of the health problems that we're seeing today. So, highly recommend the book. I can link it below. You can probably purchase it like as a physical book on Amazon. So I'll be sure, let me just make a note. Okay. So I am having trouble with snacks. Sorry, I got a little bit off topic. So my son, bless his heart, who today turns 37. I don't know how he got that old because I'm certainly not getting older. But at any rate, He shared this cookbook with me, and my son, I've shared before, is a fabulous cook. His strength is around savory cooking, where I'm more of the baker sweet treats. But this book, guys, is phenomenal. So I will also link this below. It is hardcover. It is called Brave Tart, and it is by Stella Parks. So what this book does is it takes some very common processed food type snacks that you're accustomed to eating, perhaps, or purchasing, and it teaches you how to make these from scratch without all the additives and the preservatives, so that you can control what is going into your food. My personal favorite cookie is a Fig Newton. I know that's kind of strange, right? So believe it or not, there is a recipe for how to make Fig Newtons. They have everything from Nutter Butter cookies to some of the Hostess snack cakes. I mean, there's literally everything you could think of in this book. It is phenomenal. Not only does it have the great recipes, there's a lot of good information about how to make your baking be more successful and why you should use certain ingredients in certain ways. So I'll highlight that for this recipe. So let me go take care of Frankie. He wants a drink of water. He likes to drink out of the sink. So let me pause you for a moment, and then we'll get started making homemade Fig Newtons. All right, ready to get started? I was editing the first part of the video, and I'm like, I look like Where's Waldo with that striped sweater on. So needing an apron, I just decided to take off the top sweater. So we'll proceed from here. So let me read to you what they say about homemade Fig Newtons. As Nabisco likes to remind us, Fig Newtons aren't just cookies, they're fruit and cake. True to that legacy, my homemade version pairs an easy, no-cook fig preserve with a soft dough inspired by yellow cake. Since everything hinges on the concentrated, jammy flavor of the dried figs, it is vital that you love their taste straight from the bag. So look for brands that are plump, moist, and naturally sweet. And then she talks about where she likes to purchase from, which is Trader Joe's. I am using Black Mission figs. Wow, glare, sorry about that. From NutraFig. These are California figs, so I think these will be delicious and yummy. So I am gonna insert a clip right here that I think you're gonna enjoy, because ever since I decided to make these, I have been singing the 1970s little jingle song. If you remember the Big Fig, that would do the Fig Newton dance like this, and then, you know, the big finish. So how about it? Let's watch that. Well, I hope I don't get a copyright strike over that, but I did want to share that for those of you who are too young to remember Fig Newtons. So there are 5 versions of filling that you can use. We are going to do the straight up traditional Fig Newton. There is also a recipe for apricot strawberry, blueberry lime, cherry banana, and Pig Newtons, which would be a Fig Newton with bacon. Oh, sounds so delicious. But let's just make the straight up Fig Newton. So when I was thinking about Pantry Challenge and not having any snacks, I decided I needed to come up with something that was easily portable, so when I'm out and about, I can, you know, package them in a little container, take them with, and I think Fig Newtons are really gonna fit the bill. So the first thing we are going to do is measure out 10.5 ounces of all-purpose flour, which is 2 1/4 cups. Now, earlier in the book, she talks about weight versus just a dry measure. So we're going to weigh the flour, and then we're going to sift it. So over here, I actually have my scale. You all know how to use a kitchen scale. And let me just, I could probably just do this with a spoon. So again, it's 10.5 ounces, unsifted. See if I can do this without making a huge mess. I did ask Frankie if he wanted to say hello, but he said no. Bless his little heart. He loves when it gets cold out. Particularly, he loves to drink out of the freshly running water in the sink, which is not unusual for cats. But the reason he loves it so much is because the kitchen is on an outside wall, and that water is like, it comes out really cold. All right, 10.5 ounces on the nose. Set aside the flour. I'm going to grab another bowl. There we go. All right, and then we are going to sift that 10.5 ounces of flour, and we're going to set that aside and then start working on our liquid and softer ingredients. Let me just spoon this in. And by the way, this Pyrex bowl is called a Cinderella bowl. So the bowls that have the little handles on the edges, that's what they're called. This is probably my favorite piece of Pyrex. And if you're not familiar with Pyrex and you like it and you decide to acquire some, you can occasionally find them at thrift stores, as I've shared before. Word of caution, do not put them in the dishwasher. Nothing destroys the finish of a Pyrex bowl faster and fades the color than harsh dishwasher detergent. So I have a dishwasher that I rarely use, so it's not an issue for me. Okay, come on. All right. So this is just probably El Cheapo Walmart sifter. But it is important that you measure first, sift second for this particular recipe. If you're grinding your own grain, definitely would use soft white wheat, not hard red. But because this is a rather lengthy recipe, I decided I was going to use the convenience of pre-ground flour. Okay, I'm going to set that aside. And now I'm going to pull over my KitchenAid mixer. And let me, oh gosh. I swear I'm going to bring my step back in. All right, so in this bowl, we are going to put 5 ounces of unsalted butter that is soft but cool, about 65 degrees. So what I am going to do here, I think I have the exact amount, but let me just measure to be sure. And you do want to use unsalted butter. 5 on the nose. I couldn't do that twice if I tried. All right. So we're going to put that into our mixer bowl. And then we are going to be adding 4 ounces or half a cup of light brown sugar. So there is a caution in this recipe not to use dark brown sugar. So usually when I use my homemade, I make it more like a dark brown sugar because I like the molasses flavor. So we will be using some store brown sugar. Gonna just need like all the containers right now to do the weighing. So I am going to try their method of measuring everything on the scale after reading the reasoning why. Ooh, that's a little bit hard. Ah, my brown sugar bears have dried out. All right, ooh, zero out my scale. Yeah, I may have to pause you for a minute. Let's see if I've got enough in here. I know I have more in my pantry. So if you are in the Northeast, I think you're probably also dealing with the onslaught of some true winter weather. You know, we had that unseasonably warm December where Christmas didn't feel like Christmas at all. So I'm really glad that we're having some normalizing. But the low tonight, there's 4 ounces on the nose. The low tonight is going to be 3 degrees. So, I've lost the lid. There we go. Okay. So let me put on your paddle beater. Raise my bowl. And I am going to start beating this because it's noisy. I will be adding the 4 ounces or half a cup of brown sugar. I will be adding 1/2 plus 1/8 teaspoon of baking soda, 1/4 teaspoon non-iodized salt. If you use iodized salt, it says use half as much, so that would be a 1/8 teaspoon. Cinnamon, 1/4 teaspoon, and I will be using the Ceylon cinnamon that I got from Azure Standard. It smells and tastes so amazing, guys. If you've never tried it, it's a 2 thumbs up for sure. 2 tablespoons or 1 ounce of honey and a teaspoon of orange zest. So let me put all of those items in the mixer, get it creamed up. Once it's all mixed up, you want to beat it for 5 minutes. So I will bring you back to show you what it looks like when I have everything added and it's been fluffed for 5 minutes. So stay tuned. All right, so we have beaten our mixture for 5 minutes. Now to that, we are going to add 1/2 ounce or 1 tablespoon of orange juice. Well, guess what, guys? I don't have orange juice, so I did have orange oil. So I put a little orange oil into the water, weighed it out, and we're gonna add that first. Smells like orange juice. It was that or Tang, and I decided that I didn't want all those additives that are in Tang. Okay, and then to that, we are going to add 3 large egg yolks, 1 at a time. So the whites I did not throw away. I did save them because I can use them in my meatloaf as a binder, as well as in my quiche that's in my meal planning. So that's the kind of non-food waste I was speaking of. All right, let me scrape this bowl down a little bit because our liquids are not incorporated very well, and that's why you wear an apron. Okay, we'll get this mixed up a little better, and it says to mix it until it's well combined, then reduce the speed to low, and we'll start sprinkling in the flour that we sifted in the very first step. And I'll try to speak up. So what we have here is just a very creamy mixture like you do most recipes that are baking. You cream your butter and sugar, add eggs, seasonings, etc. to it. Alright, that looks very well combined. So now I'm going to begin adding our flour. And just sprinkle that in a little bit at a time. Guys, it smells very, very good. I actually dehydrated my own orange peel because I do not like the store-bought orange zest, and as I said, I didn't have any oranges, so sometimes you just have to make do. But sometimes I find that the store-purchased orange peel just really has a bitter taste and does not impart the flavor of oranges. So what I do is just take the zest, dehydrate it, and use that instead. A lot less waste, and the rest of my orange peels generally go into vinegar for a cleaning solution. So this is starting to come together as a dough. I'm hoping you can see pretty well. All right, let's scrape down the bowl again. And I've shared before, I do have the large KitchenAid mixer. That is one of the disadvantages when you don't have a large amount of dough. I find that you have to do a little bit more scraping, but I love my mixer and I'm not complaining. I do have a smaller version, but I need to take it apart and repack it with grease. My mother actually gave it to me, and when I was transporting it, it fell over in the trunk and lost a lot of the lubricating oil, I guess, but it's more like a grease. But it ran out in the trunk and I don't want to burn the motor out. All right, let me give this one final mix. All right, smells delish. So let me first scrape down the beater, and then I will explain to you what we're going to do, because this dough has to be refrigerated for 1 hour. So that'll give me time to wash the dishes. And that's one of the things I like to do, is clean as I go. I think I've shared this story before, but my mother would dirty every dish in the kitchen, every bowl, every measuring item, every utensil when she was making something. I never understood that, and basically did not clean up as she went. So I was always on dish duty. So I think the positive out of that is that I don't make a mess in the kitchen, because I know I have to clean it up. Well, I make messes, I just clean as I go. How's that? All right. Looks like we've got that beater pretty clean. Now what it says is to knead it against the side of the bowl. Frankie's laying here beside me sleeping. Oh, nope. Now he's playing with the milk jug ring. All right. So I've kind of gathered this up in a ball, somewhat. Let's see if we, ooh, that is a sticky dough. Wow. It says, form a smooth ball. That is not going to be easy. I'm wondering if we're going to have to add a little bit more flour, because there's no way, as sticky as that is. All right, so we're going to go back to plan B. I'm going to add just a little bit more flour. Let's get the beater back on. And one of the reasons that sometimes you have to alter the amount, hang on guys, there's a fuzzy there, can have to do with the humidity in your home. And I am telling you guys, it is so dry in here. I looked this morning, my humidity is down to 35% because it's been so cold. The furnace has been running a lot more. So let me kind of clean my fingers off here. Don't want to waste any of that Fig Newton goodness. I'm going to add a little bit more flour, get it to a better consistency, and then I will bring you back at that point. So I did go get my step stool. Stay tuned. All right, so here is our nice smooth ball of dough, and I am going to wrap it in Glad Press and Seal. It just says plastic wrap. Wrap it tightly. I'm going to put it into the refrigerator for an hour until it's well chilled. Clean up the kitchen, then we'll come back and we will be making our fig preserves for the inside. So just a quick note, probably why the dough is a bit sticky. I first thought it was humidity, and then I realized I had some pretty large egg yolks. So that may well have been the volume difference, but I only added about a 1/4 cup of flour and it came right together. So just want to be able to not have that sticky. It really did not stick to my hands once I added the flour, so I think that's a much better consistency. So let me wash up these dishes and then we'll be back to make our Fig Newton filling. Stay tuned. All right, well, while our dough is chilling, let's prepare the fig insides. So if you're not familiar with figs, the black figs look like this, and I saved the stem. So the stems look kind of like this. Well, I'm not sure. There you go. So kind of like an apple stem, but they're kind of mushed into the fig. So you definitely want to remove that part for this recipe. So what I did is just rough chopped 12 ounces of figs, and these are beautiful. So if you look at the inside, they have that nice seed. They kind of remind me of prunes, only sweeter and better. Kind of between a prune and a date might be a good way to describe it. Love figs. So I did have some left over, and they are really good if you cook them up, like chop them, cook them up, especially good with applesauce. And then you can put them in your oatmeal, on top of your oatmeal. You can spread it on toast, you know, kind of like a pseudo fig jam. All right, so to our 12 ounces here. I guess I cleaned up too good, guys. We need to add 1/3 cup or 3.5 ounces of applesauce. So if you remember in the fall when I did my maple sweetened applesauce, I opened a jar of that. I will be having that this week with my various dinners. So we're gonna add that. And I'm adding it to a food processor. If I didn't say that, or you can't see that. And then again, I do not have orange juice, so I used orange oil and an ounce to equal an ounce of water. All right, so what it says is pulse the figs that are cut in half with applesauce and orange juice until roughly chopped, then process to a thick, smooth paste. Scrape the bowl and blade with a flexible spatula, then process a minute more to ensure absolutely no chunks remain. and then it says transfer to a piping bag with a 1/2 inch tip fitted. Okay guys, I have piping bags. The only tips I have are decorative and not appropriate. So I'm going to try just cutting off so that it's about a 1/2 inch opening. If that doesn't work, then we can just use an offset spatula to spread the dough. I think it will be better if we can pipe it because I have a feeling that dough is going to be nice and tender. So let me process this. This thing about gets away from me, and the cord is very short. Let me pause. Amazing. All right. That's just the feed chute. So let me scrape this down. So there are quite a few chunks yet. So I am going to spare your ears, and I'm going to continue blending it on high for about another minute until it's smooth. And then the next time I come back, we will be rolling out our dough and starting to spread the fig jam on it. We'll get our oven preheated to 350 and get started baking. Now, I will tell you one thing about these. I will be tasting it after we bake them, but after you bake them, you put them in an airtight container and let them steam for 6 hours. So you put them warm into a container and then let that heat steam through the filling and the cake. And that's what makes that nice, soft fig Newton texture. So I'll be right back. Okay, we are ready to make some fig Newtons. So in doing the editing, I did a little bit of review for YouTube's policy, and I am not going to insert the vintage commercial because I will get a copyright strike. So I'm not going to do that. Apologize, guys. So what I've done is I put our filling into this piping bag. I just set it into a glass, folded a cuff back, filled it, and now I'll be able to squeeze it down and out onto the strips. So I'll set that aside. So hands are clean, counter is clean. It says, the directions are a little bit confusing, guys. I've read it like 15 times, so you may just have to improvise if it doesn't become clearer. So our dough is nice and chilled, and I did want to tell you too, you can make this and leave it in the refrigerator for up to 24 hours, it says. So mine's been in for several hours. I mentioned today was my son's birthday, so I wanted to actually spend a little time with him on the phone. He lives up near Cleveland, Ohio. They are getting hammered with snow, and we actually have gotten quite a bit. So it's coming down good and hard. We've probably gotten an inch. So the first thing we're going to do, tip you down a little more, is we are going to roll this into an 8-inch square, or as close to it as we can. So let me try to get this, and that's just our first roll. Might have been easier, honestly, guys, if I would have put the dough in a square before I started. Note to self for next time. Also, probably should have rolled up the sleeves. Okay, so I'm a terrible judge of distance, so we are 8 inches is only like that big, and we're about okay on width. So this needs to come in a whole bunch to make an 8-inch square. And that's important because we want to have the right thickness. But then as soon as we finish doing this, it says to flour it and roll it to a 15-inch square. So even though it looks kind of thick right now, I think we're okay. Okay, so sprinkle both sides with flour. And then roll into a 15-inch square. So let's try for the length first. Oh, we got a ways to go here. And I am using my non-stick gifted from my neighbor, Sue and Larry. Thank you. My rolling pin. This is traveling a little bit, but I'd rather have it travel as to stick. Sticking, not good. And what you can always do if you're really off on your square or you're getting cracking, you can always use your bench cutter to even things up, you know. If it's too thick in one area, you can always do that. Just want to make sure those pieces meld well together, and you use plenty of flour. So let's see how we're coming with length here. I think we're close. Okay. Actually, you can scooch it in just a little bit. And I'm being kind of particular with the shape because we are going to be cutting these into a certain shape to make the square fig Newtons. So yeah, we want it appropriately square. So we're good on length. Now let's work on width. So up until this point, I think the recipe's been really easy. Probably if I was going to make these, I would probably make the dough and the filling, leave it in the fridge overnight, then go back and do the baking probably the next day, just to be maybe a little more efficient with time. Once we get this rolled out into a 15-inch square, we will be cutting that into 4 strips. So that's why I'm being kind of fussy here. Getting a little bit of stickage, not too bad. It's still a little thin there. So let's see where we are. We're not too far off. I think we can cut this end off and place it here and end up with a better square. So lots of fussing. I enjoy baking, and it's not that I don't enjoy cooking. I just have always really liked baking, and that was the first cooking skill that I learned. So I think it will always be my first and favorite type of cooking to do. Plus, as you know, I love sweets, so that helps a little bit. I like to eat my creations. Okay. Not real happy with this corner here, so let me do a little more rolling and fussing. Just think it needs some thickness this way. You definitely have to keep it well floured. They are correct on that, or else it starts to stick and tear. And that beep is just my oven letting me know that it is ready when I am. Okay, let's see where we are. I know it's not a perfect square. Still just a bit shy. I'm gonna go this way with, because it's a little bit thicker on that side than this side. Okay. Let me roll my sleeve up again. The apron does no good with long sleeves, that's for sure. Okay. So the next step is to slide an offset spatula under the dough to loosen it, brush off excess flour, and cut into 4 3 1/4 inch strips. What kind of has puzzled me is 4 times 3 3 1/4 is 13, not 15. So what I will most likely do is just cut it into 4 equal strips. Yeah, it's stuck a little bit here, but not terrible. Okay. So I'm gonna eyeball this for half, and then half the halves. All right, now we take our filling, and what it says to do, I gotta get it started here, is to go directly down the center, holding the bag at a 90-degree angle to help flatten the filling. Pipe a 1-inch wide strip down the center of each portion. So it is thick. We don't want any gaps in our filling or any figless fig Newtons. So let me fill in that little spot. And then it says to fold it over the dough so the fig will be in the middle. Brush away excess flour, roll the bar over seam side down, flatten it, and then put it on a parchment paper lined cookie sheet. So I am going to continue on here. Now that you've gotten the idea of how I'm going to pipe it, I'm not sure if I will need to add more to each strip, so I'm going to do a strip on each, and then we'll see what we have left. I'll bring you back when I get them on the cookie sheet. Okay, just to give you a little update, I did have enough to go down each strip twice, so it's about 1 inch wide. I simply folded it in half, put the seam side down, then it says to smash it. It doesn't say smash. Press it down, you know, so it looks more like a fig Newton cookie, and then transfer it to the cookie sheet. So I guess that's gonna have to be washed. Kind of clear a little room here. And hope that these are pretty easy. Oh yeah, very easy to pick up. So it does say all 4 should fit on 1 cookie sheet. So they must not rise a whole lot. So I guess you don't need to watch me fiddle. I'm gonna seal the end just a little bit because I have a feeling that fig is going to ooze out, but it is on parchment paper, so that should be a non-issue. I'm gonna finish the other 3 rolls, and we will get these into a 350-degree oven for 18 minutes. Immediately when they come out, we'll be cutting these into bars and putting them into a container, and I'll explain that when I come back. All right, we have our 4 rolls. I think they look pretty good. I can see fig Newtons when I think that through it in my head. So I'm gonna pop them in the oven. I will bring you back in 18 minutes. I left these in for about 19.5 minutes. It said 18, but my oven tends to run a little slow. So immediately, these are very hot. They smell amazing. It says to cut them into 1-inch strips. And immediately, I guess I don't measure 1 inch very well, do I? Let's do a little better here. Place them into a container, and you want to have a paper towel at the bottom and in between each layer. Then you cover it while they're still hot. The paper towel helps hold in the moisture, and you leave them for 6 hours. It does mention that if you eat them right away, that they are going to be dry. But let me just show you. Wow, those are hot. I'd say that looks like a fig Newton, wouldn't you? I'm pretty excited, and they smell divine. The outer cake part seems to be very, very tender, and the fig filling, by pushing down on each of the rolls, really does seem like it spread out just right. So I'm happy about that. That's an end piece, but end pieces are still good, right? Looks like we can get almost 2 rolls per layer in this Tupperware. And I have to say, it seems different to be putting hot cookies into a plastic container and covering them, but we shall follow the directions, right? Cut the last 2. So I think, if these are as delicious as I think they will be, the next time I would probably mix up the dough and the filling like the night before, just pop it in the fridge, and then do all the fussy work of rolling, filling, and all that the next day. I will also say I had no need for a piping tip. You can totally do it with a piping bag or even a plastic bag. No worries. So let me put a couple of these out for the thumbnail, and I'm going to try them even though they say they will taste dry. I didn't do all this work and bring you along to not share with you how they taste, right? And I hope I'm in bed in 6 hours. I'm being a little bit facetious, guys. So far, it looks like we only have about 1 inch of snow, but that was just round 1. And tomorrow they're saying probably an additional 3 inches. So welcome to winter in Ohio, that's for sure. These aren't sticking at all. Super easy to cut. They look really pretty. I have no complaints. And even on the top, you're to place another paper towel. let me cover these up. A peek at the time. And I am going to get my thumbnail real quick, and I'll bring you back for final thoughts. Stay tuned. Time for the taste test of these beauties. Guys, they taste better than Fig Newtons. I'll be doggone if they don't taste very, very similar to Fig Newtons. Absolutely delicious. Wow. Worth each and every step. The filling is rich and creamy, but not overly sweet. And if you remember, we only put ½ cup sugar in this entire recipe, and the applesauce had some maple syrup in it, so I'm sure that added some sweetness. So I highly recommend, I'm not affiliated with the author or anything, but I am an Amazon affiliate, so I will drop a link in the description box below. I highly recommend this book. Look forward to making some other snacks with you along the way in this pantry challenge. So if you haven't already, I'd appreciate it if you'd go ahead and smash that like button. If you know someone who really likes Fig Newtons, share this video if you would. It helps my channel out greatly. And as always, be healthy, be well, be blessed, and I will see you all very soon. Take care.